Now, there's always this common narrative that hospital A is better than hospital B or C. Now, I would like to debunk that assumption or narrative, because there are several causes that makes hospital A better than hospital B or C or D. There are human causes, there are environmental causes, and there are extrinsic forces. And I like to be very particular with what we call antimicrobial resistance. Antimicrobial resistance are infections, e.g. bacteria, protozoa, fungi, or parasites that have become hard or impossible to treat. And the cause for this is what we call overuse of antibiotics. Normally, we like to prescribe what we call multimodal approach of antibiotics, more than one antibiotic for treatment of a condition. This, in the long run, becomes a precursor for what we call antimicrobial resistance, which is nowadays here with us. There's a study that was done in 1956, and it gave a statement that 70 years from then we shall live in what we call post-antibiotic era. I believe we are almost there. Then there is also what we call misuse of antibiotics. For instance, if you contract flu today, it's a common thing for you to rush to over the counter and procure what is the name of this common drug that you always procure. This is azithromycin. So you see, you'll be using antibiotic azithromycin to treat a viral infection, for instance. Then there is incomplete treatment. Normally, after 2-3 days, when you feel your condition is resolved, you abandon the antibiotic dose. If it was ranging to 7 days or 5 days, when you find you don't complete this antibiotic dose, this is another precursor to antimicrobial resistance. Then there is also use of antibiotics in livestock and agriculture. There is a drug that is used in livestock and can also be used in human beings. There are several. Example is gentamicin. So if you ingest a product from this animal that has been injected with gentamicin, before it clears from its system, your body will treat this gentamicin as maybe as food, for instance, but not as a drug. So it might not achieve the intended purpose for what you are getting this gentamicin for. And then there's also an aspect of genetic mutation. There are some microorganisms that have undergone massive genetic mutation. Example is Neisseria gonorrhea, which is a causative agent for gonorrhea. So if you contract gonorrhea now, it's a nightmare, because it has resisted almost all drugs that are used to treat it. Another one is malaria. You'll remember in yesteryears we used to use chloroquine to treat malaria. Nowadays we are in era of AL, and you'll bear me witness that at times you complete this AL dose and still you test positive for malaria. Examples of these antimicrobial resistance are what we call methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. You've encountered, especially all the people who have very chronic wounds that are non-healing. They will tell you they have had these wounds for over 10 years. And then there is these children, it's common in children, what we call chronic impetigo. They have crusty and pale whitish skin, normally on their faces and scalp, and mostly their legs. We normally call them mashilingi, but you'll find these mashilingi are not healing, for instance. And then we have what we call multi-drug resistance TB, which is a nightmare, which will be on treatment for quite a long time, and the prognosis is not always good for this. So before we profile hospital A against B or C, let us understand that there are factors that makes hospital A better than B that could be outside the control of the hospital, but they could be even within us. They could be human causes, for instance, like antimicrobial resistance. They could be extrinsic factors, and then they could also be environmental factors.